Hello, this is Gladiator in Sweats. Let me just start with the day, because I guess just how the day has been feeling and the energies that I've been feeling kind of just lead up to what I want to talk about today. Because I took down some notes, or not even just really some notes, but I just had a lot of stuff that came in that I just had to like write down, and I feel called to share it. So, the past couple of days, not even the past couple of days, the past month has been extreme change. For everyone but myself, especially. Some of my neighbors just got home. But, and I don't even want to just say change, because that's so vague. Specifically for me, if you want to look like in the charts and like, I guess, make it a little bit more logical for some people, Pluto and Capricorn. Pluto is natally in my first house. It's natally a co-ruler of my chart. So when anything that happens with Pluto, I tend to feel a lot. Pluto is a generational planet, so it's usually not something that people feel strongly. It's something that you feel generational. So I often do feel connected to how the generation feels, even if I'm not physically going through it myself. So I know that like people around my age are going through a lot of change. Like we're going through a lot. It can feel, I guess, negative, or it can come off, negative in some of the changes in our life, but it really is all for the best. I feel like a lot of the changes that I've been feeling have been really positive, or at least they end up turning out positive if they didn't in the present when I was feeling it. But it's in my third house, so it's in, my house of the mind. I am a Gemini, so it's already, something that affects me in my awareness. It's something I'm really conscious of. So I was really aware of, my mind just really changing. Not even just my mind, because again, I guess that's vague, but my perceptions, the paradigms that I, believed. I guess the word that is hot right now is matrix. So I guess I can use that because a lot of people can kind of understand, or not even understand, but like just understand the programs and just the ways in which I was choosing to live, and even though it wasn't the way I wanted to live. And I guess that will help me lead into Kanye West, because I've been kind of talking a little bit about him, and I haven't been able to really like explain, and it's a controversial thing, so I just want to talk a little bit about it. So I guess from there I'll just jump into my notes, because it'll lead into some of the things I've been talking about on my Instagram, if you've been paying any attention, or even if you haven't, because you've been like, that girl's been she's going off the deep end, which is fine. I kind of expect that, but I just want to share it anyway. So I mentioned something about how the light can be bad, how the supposed good, how the supposed light, love and light can be bad. And I guess I'll just read actually straight from my notes, and then I'll expound from whatever it was that I spoke on. So I've spent most of my life chasing enlightenment, chasing spiritual clarity, and what I found is that in the chase, there's also a running away from previous programmings. Instead of facing them head on, we often gather as much knowledge as possible and as many tools as possible. This is where some of us end up on the path of spiritual materialism. And I'll just stop there. So, I said most of my life as if I'm like super old, but really, a lot of my life I have felt, I mean, I grew up in a Christian home, so, just growing up, it was with, it was spiritual. It was a sense of, I don't want to say chasing God, but, going after God, going after the light. So, I guess I can say I have spent most of my life, chasing, enlightenment. And whatever word that people use, in their religion or belief system or whatever to label it, all the systems are just different ways of categorizing or labeling. It just makes it easier for us to understand. It all just means the same thing. Go back to my point. What I was saying is that in the chase, there's running away from previous programming. So I grew up Christian, and at a certain point in my life, without like going super deep into it, I felt Christianity was a hoax or a fraud. I didn't feel it made any sense to me. Not only did it not make any sense to me, but I felt that it's one thing for things to not make sense to me, because I can often lead with faith, which is what I, grew up believing. But I also was feeling that people just were doing whatever they wanted to do, and people would just pick and chose whatever they wanted to do, and they would just find whatever they wanted to rationalize what they did. This is not specific to any group of people or beings. Ugh, why? Or so when people try to say religion is bad, like, people keep trying to put things in a box. They keep trying to essentially run away from either side. They try to run away from what it is that they fear instead of really facing it head on. That's what I was mentioning. So instead of people facing the fact that they don't really understand, and which is part of the journey, is us trying to understand. But not only that, but people, not even people, but I found it myself when I, I guess informally, but also I guess formally stopped going to church and, being Christian and all that stuff. I wasn't really into the whole church thing to begin with. It was just something I did because my family did it. But, when you got older, when you were, at a point where you can start making your own choices, when you're like a preteen and teen, you're just like, yeah, that's not something I care about or do. That was when, I was going into what people would consider, occult knowledge. When I was going into, astrology, and I dabbled in tarot. I wasn't even really into tarot at that point. I was into reading other people's readings, or as far as like checking out other people's readings, or like wanting other readings from other people and things like that. But it was not something that I was doing myself. But that's when I went into that. I wasn't necessarily dealing with what I felt was wrong with religion. I wasn't dealing with that part. I just kind of was wanting to figure, at that point I was just really wanting to learn more of like who I was, because I spent a lot of my life, learning about other people and taking in other points of views. And at that point I felt like I need to figure out what my own point of view was. So I feel like that's just going way too much into me. Let me get back to what I was trying to say. So, but in that, in me doing all of this work, my life, if you want to go back to just how my life was in general, my life was okay, but it wasn't necessarily better. At that point, I had gotten into a pretty serious, I don't want to say pretty serious, a very serious relationship with someone that lasted, quite some time, throughout my high school time. And I learned a lot through that. But, through this, it wasn't easy. It was really rough. It was really hard. It wasn't, like, physical or anything like that. But, like, it was emotionally tough for me. And I wasn't necessarily getting better from those past things. I wasn't necessarily healing from things that I felt I was hurt from in my childhood or through Christianity. It just kind of, it wasn't a reiteration, but it was just kind of like another layer of me having to see myself through another perspective, of having to not just see myself, but see what I did not resonate with, that society had told me, but I was learning through the relationship, or not even just through that relationship, but just through everything going on through my life, what I truly believed or felt to be true, and what, you know, people were feeding me. And not even just people, but just like with the world, you know, everything is programming. Everything, when we come into the world, we're a sponge, we're trying to understand. And so sometimes the things that we take in aren't necessarily the truest perspective. And so that's what I was learning, was that a lot of my perspectives were skewed, and so that meant my reality of things were skewed. My perspective of things could be totally different. It could be yet valid. It would be valid. My emotions would be valid. How I felt would be, I really felt those things. I really seen those things that way. But that didn't mean that was necessarily true. And what I mean by true is that that's not the only facet of truth. Like, there's someone else has another perspective. So, and not just someone else. There's unlimited perspectives. So I guess that's what I meant by, you know, in most of my life, in chasing enlightenment, I have learned that there are so many perspectives, and not just that. Everyone knows this, because there's billions of people in the world, and we know that each single one of them has a different perspective. What we're not understanding and respecting is that they're all equally valid. And that was something that I guess I was running away from. Like, I was running, like, I would see people that may hurt me and then go on to live perfectly wonderful lives. Not even just perfectly wonderful, and I mean their dreams literally coming true, while mine weren't. Well, not even just while mine weren't, but while I was still dealing with the heartache that I felt that they left me with. And you know, in Christianity and a lot of my teachings, you know, they teach you about karma, and they teach you about this idea of, you know, you hurt someone, it's supposed to come back to you. And so you sit and you wonder, it's like, I was hurt. When are they supposed to get hurt? Why are they flourishing? And you know, people have mentioned it, I think, a few times in some of the groups I'm in, and like Pretty Boss TV. I might tag her, I'll tag her in the bottom of, you know, and she said in their mind, you know, their perspective is valid, and I agree with that. But I actually agree with that wholeheartedly, that their perspective is actually valid, that there is no one person that can decide, well, that person was necessarily right or wrong. Right and wrong is all about the, you know, perspective. It's all subjective. All of it's subjective. Doesn't mean that you don't get to choose what you feel is right or wrong. It's just that it really gets to the heart of the matter of, like, everyone truly being equal. If people really wanted to believe in equality, that would be true equality. And I'll kind of mention, this is actually getting pretty long, so I'll probably mention that in a whole other video, because I have quite a bit of notes and I haven't even got into everything. This is already 13 minutes, so I guess I'll just go as long as 20 minutes maybe, and then cut it off. Oops, sorry. My camera's on my chair. So, oh, so the part about spiritual materialism. I guess that's where I'll end off on. What I mean by that is on many different levels. There's the part of seeking knowledge, and I guess I'll actually mention the part that I wrote underneath it. Always seeking more and more when our thirst doesn't seem to ever be quenched. Insatiable. And I underlined insatiable. And that's what it kind of is. And that's how I have kind of felt. An insatiable thirst for spiritual, like, knowledge, for spiritual truth. And, like, feeling like every time I unveiled a layer, I still felt like there was more. And not even just felt like it was more, but, like, I felt kind of like it ate. Kind of like it never felt like enough. And I feel like that's kind of where all of us can kind of feel like we're, not even kind of all of us, that has been, I feel like, the current message that's been being sent through some of the spiritual communities now, which is what I meant by how light can be bad. So what I feel is that people are so focused on like this so-called destination of enlightenment. People are so focused on reaching like the pinnacle and the peak. And I mean, we see this in like, you know, everything. We see this in like sex. We see this in career. We see this in, you know, just whatever people feel is an achievement. People want to reach the top of it, and not just, which is normal, or, you know, is okay, but people want it so much to where they are insatiable about it, to where they are willing to do anything for it. That's where you see people willing to harm others, whether it's, you know, emotionally or mentally, or where they're actually willing to take it to a physical point and willing to harm them or take their life and things like that. But on more of a like not so on a more of a not so dark level, that's where you can feel like, you know, for me it was jumping from one thing to the next. When I felt like I had gotten my fill on one topic, I would jump to another one. And when I felt like I got my fill on that one, or I felt like I got what I need to get, I go to another thing. And I don't even see that necessarily as a mistake. I see that as just that was how my path was laid. But in that, I found that I wasn't always practicing what I was taking in. I was just collecting stuff. It was just essentially like a mental hoarder. I was just collecting things and not even really putting them into practice or loving them. I was just collecting them. Like I was spiritual materialist. I was just taking in so much, which, like I said, wasn't even wrong. But like I was just soaking in so much and soaking in so much. I wasn't even applying half as much as I was reading and taking in, which was the issue. Because I find with me, I have the initiative, I have the drive to go seek the information. It's grounding it, and I even see that in my chart. I have a lot of all the other elements, but I have like no earth, none. I have no earth. So it's hard for me to ground it. I can often get stuck in the clouds, get stuck in all of the mental and emotional realm, and I often don't get to bring it back down into a practical, tangible, habitual way of doing things. Another way you can often see like spiritual materialism is what we're seeing now with the consumerist, you know, aspect of it is, you know, not that there's anything wrong with it, but people, you know, buying, you know, not even buying, the popularity of, you know, like stones and like more like metaphysical things and more spiritual, you know, products. That's, you know, on the rise now, which I enjoy because it makes it easier for me to, you know, more accessible to me too. But I also see in how these tools are being manipulated, how people are just using it to, you know, in the same way that the healthcare industry made it, you know, oh, there's a pill for that, you know, there's soon going to be, oh, there's a stone for that, there's a crystal for that, there's a tea for that. Which there is at often times, but I feel like it's going to get to a point where we're going to need to learn discernment. You're going to have to learn to pick and choose quality over quantity, and that's what I've had to learn myself. Is as much as I was taking in, not all of it was good. Not all of it was, not even just, I don't want to say good, because I don't want to even have that necessarily in my vocabulary. It wasn't the full truth. I would get half truths. Quarter truth sometimes maybe, but I would get half truths. I wouldn't get the full picture of it, and now I feel like I'm getting more of, I don't even want to say I have the full picture, because I won't ever have the full picture until I guess we're all, you know, actually all united. We're all parts of the full picture. But I feel like as I get older, I've gotten more of that picture, and I'm learning to be able to let go of the things that don't resonate with me and clear house, you know, whether it's, you know, physically by like, you know, spring cleaning, getting rid of things I don't use or don't need. Like, you know, in the beginning I had tons of tools, not even in the beginning, even now I have tons of tools or tons of things I may have bought that I thought I was gonna use, or I thought I was like gonna be super into, and now I don't. And now I see the things that I use every day are like the least costly, if you want to put it in finite terms, least costly things. I'm sitting here thinking I needed to do these huge crystal, these. Let me just take my feet off the chair. I'm thinking I needed to do these huge crystal grids or something. I need to do this huge, you know, like altar tables, or you know, I had to do all these things to make it seem like I was real, and that's not even the case. That's not even the case. So I'm already at 20 minutes. That's not even. I think that's maybe a quarter, maybe a fifth of what I wrote down. But I guess I'll just leave it at that, and I can just, you know, put out some more videos maybe as I start to even further digest this stuff, because things just started to click for me today. It really did. And I feel like it started, I don't even feel like, I know that it started. It started with, I wish I had it out here, the Fool card. Check out my Instagram, Gladiator in Sweats. I posted the picture of it because I felt like that was kind of the underlying, not even the underlying, it was the first card that I pulled in today's reading. I keep looking at like the screen and not realizing the camera's right there. My bad, guys. That was the first card that I pulled, and I feel like that is the energy of today. And it's a Uranian energy, and I wrote down notes on that too. Maybe I'll just make a short video after this about like just Uranian energy and my kind of perspective that I feel like, I don't want to say is original, but something I feel like isn't really mentioned as much. But yeah, that's it. It's May 4th, so hope everyone's having a great Friday. Again, for all my Star Wars fans, I'm like a brand new like bandwagon Star Wars fan, but I feel like true Star Wars fans will welcome the newbies. We're never late, we're always on time is what I like to believe. But anyway, I hope you guys have a blessed one, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.